More than 160 countries have now recognized a Palestinian state. In just the past week, the United Kingdom, France, Canada, and Australia joined the list. On paper, it sounds like momentum. But in reality, Palestinian statehood remains a distant prospect, blocked by Israeli resistance, US opposition, and political complexities on the ground. When a country recognizes Palestine, it is essentially a diplomatic declaration. It signals support for the two-state solution, the idea of Israel and Palestine living side by side. Leaders such as Britain's Keir Starmer and France's Emmanuel Macron say recognition is about keeping hope alive, even as the war in Gaza drags on.
We recognized the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognize a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future.
Macron framed it bluntly. To break the cycle of violence, Palestine must exist as a viable demilitarized state alongside Israel.
Et la reconnaissance des droits légitimes du peuple palestinien n'enlève rien aux droits du peuple israélien, que la France a soutenu dès le premier jour et au respect desquels elle n'est pas moins attachée. Précisément car nous sommes convaincus que cette reconnaissance est la solution qui seule permettra la paix pour Israël.
But recognition on its own doesn't create borders, security arrangements, or functioning institutions. It is more of a political gesture, aimed at building pressure on Israel and the United States to change course. But why now? The answer lies in Gaza. Months of bombardment, mass displacement, and soaring civilian casualties have spurred governments to act. For many, recognition is a way to show disapproval of Israel's military campaign and signal solidarity with Palestinians. Australia, for example, justified its move by pointing to fresh commitments from the Palestinian Authority to recognize Israel, hold elections, and pursue reforms.
This will be an ongoing process. For now, what we will do is ensure that Australian government communications are updated to reflect this formal recognition. Official documents, public-facing websites, government systems, policies and operating procedures will refer to the State of Palestine or Palestine rather than the OPTs. Further steps will follow, such as establishing embassies to follow progress on reforms committed to by the Palestinian Authority. This gives effect to the commitment the Prime Minister and I made when we flagged announcement of this recognition. What we expect is reform in areas of education, governance, disarmament, democratic elections, and of course to ensure the exclusion of Hamas. There can be no role for Hamas.
But here lies the roadblock. United States, a permanent member of the UN Security Council, remains the single most important player in shaping Israel's choices. And the Trump administration has made it clear. Recognizing Palestine is, in their words, rewarding terrorism. President Trump himself repeated that line at the UN, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio blasted France's move as reckless and a slap in the face to the victims of October 7th. The US has consistently shielded Israel at the UN Security Council and would veto any resolution to grant Palestine full UN membership.
Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they have taken so much, this could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now.
For Israel, the idea of Palestinian statehood is viewed as an existential threat. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has long rejected the concept, openly embracing the vision of a greater Israel, one that extends into modern-day Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. His coalition, dominated by far-right ministers, is pushing hard for annexation of large parts of the West Bank.
יש לי מסר ברור לאותם מנהיגים שמכירים במדינה פלסטינית לאחר הטבח הנורא ב7 באוקטובר. אתם מעניקים פרס עצום לטרור. ויש לי מסר נוסף עבורכם. זה לא יהיה. לא תקום מדינה פלסטינית ממערב לירדן. במשך שנים אני מנעתי את הקמתה של מדינת טרור זו מול לחצים אדירים, גם מבית וגם מן החוץ. עשינו זאת בנחישות ועשינו זאת בתבונה מדינית. לא כל שכן. הכפלנו את ההתיישבות היהודית ביהודה ושומרון ונמשיך בדרך זו. המענה לניסיון האחרון לכפות עלינו מדינת טרור בלב ארצנו, המענה הזה יינתן לאחר שובי מארצות הברית. תמתינו.
Israel argues that recognizing a Palestinian state legitimizes groups such as Hamas, which it views as a terrorist organization. It insists that any Palestinian state would be a security risk on its borders, unless it is completely demilitarized and controlled. Even if recognition gained real traction, who would lead Palestine? Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority's president, is 89 years old and deeply unpopular. His appointed deputy, Hussein al-Sheikh, lacks broad support. Polls suggest the most popular figure is Marwan Barghouti, a Fatah leader serving multiple life sentences in an Israeli prison. Israel has vowed never to release him. This leadership vacuum makes it difficult to imagine a functioning state taking shape soon. The idea of two states has been the foundation of peace talks for decades, yet the facts on the ground tells a different story. Expanding settlements, ongoing occupation, and Israel's hold over large parts of Gaza and the West Bank. As Keir Starmer admitted, hope for a two-state solution is fading. But leaders argue it is too dangerous to let that vision die completely.
With the actions of Hamas, the Israeli government escalating the conflict, and settlement building being accelerated in the West Bank, the hope of a two-state solution is fading. But we cannot let that light go out. That is why we are building consensus with leaders in the region and beyond around our framework for peace. This is a practical plan to bring people together behind a common vision and a series of steps, including the reform of the Palestinian Authority, that takes us from a ceasefire in Gaza to negotiations on a two-state solution.
For Palestine to become a reality, three things are essential: reform and unity within the Palestinian leadership, genuine international pressure on Israel, and most critically, a shift in US policy. Without Washington's backing, recognition risks being little more than symbolic. Until then, Palestine will remain a state recognized by much of the world, but not yet existing on the map. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.